Hi, I'm Shoestring Jane. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things frugal, thrifty and money saving. Today I'm going to talk about the cost of being frugal, the cost of a frugal lifestyle. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the cost in terms of money, but the cost in terms of time. So the thing about when you embrace frugality, obviously I talk about this a lot. I have found it to be overall really beneficial to my lifestyle, my quality of life, because it has meant that I can work fewer hours. It meant I could leave my job at the council, which I didn't enjoy. It means generally that I can get by earning very little money. However, I am aware that, things are changing. Things are changing. It may be that I have to work more in order to stay in the same place because the cost of living, as you know, has gone through the roof. So it may be that I really start to notice the extra time that I spend being frugal. And so it's true that, when you embrace a frugal lifestyle, you do have to invest a bit of time in what you're doing. So, for example, scratch cooking everything from scratch rather than buying takeaways or buying convenience food. It's more time consuming. Obviously, you're having to actually chop your vegetables and your onions and your meat and fry them up and make something. So that's going to be a lot more time consuming than taking a ready meal out of the freezer and sticking it in the microwave. So that's an obvious one. If you decide to grow some of your own food, well, that obviously takes some time. It takes some time to dig a vegetable patch. It takes time to water, well, first of all, to plant your seeds, to nurture your seeds, to get them in the ground, to water them regularly, to weed them regularly. That all takes time. And so you may have almost free food at the end of the day, but there has been a cost in terms of the hours you have needed to expend really in order to grow that food. So mending your things. So you may mend clothing or household items rather than just going to buy a new gizmo, gadget or item of clothing. So mending, well, that takes time. So as another example, what else have I got on my list? Writing a budget. Well, that takes time. I've got an overall budget, but I have to sit down every month, write a budget for the coming month. That does take time. Meal planning. I really, really rate meal planning, particularly if you are feeding a family. Meal planning takes a lot of time. Well, no, it doesn't. It takes a small amount of time. And once you get into it, it takes even less time. But meal planning, writing a shopping list, they do take time. I would argue that they also save time. I'll come on to that later. If you make gifts, like a lot of my Facebook group make their own presents, so they crochet and knit and do pottery and grow plants and do all sorts of things. Making your own gifts takes more time and love and care, I would say in brackets, than just going to the shop or sitting online and ordering something from an online website. Shopping around for good deals. So if you don't want to spend more than you have to, you will tend to shop around. You may wait until the price is right before you buy something. So time and patience. You may wait until something is available secondhand that you want, and you have to keep looking. You keep looking, so that obviously does take more time. It's not as quick as just buying whatever you want. Comparing utility bills. I mean, I know we can't do much about our energy bills in the UK at the moment, but generally speaking, comparing your utilities, comparing phones, TV packages, broadband, household insurance, motor insurance, all of those things, taking the time to compare those, which you would do if you are going for a frugal lifestyle and trying to save money, that all takes time. There are also the services that other people maybe farm out. So cleaning, ironing, gardening. When you're frugal, you do all of those things yourself. You can't save yourself some time by getting someone like me to come around and clean your house. I think when you approach frugality to start with, to keep you motivated, certainly this worked for me, I would think about the cost of something and how much time working it would cost me to buy that thing. And that's really motivating because you think, I have to work 7 hours in order to buy that, or however many hours, whatever you're buying. It depends on the expense, obviously. But then if you think about it in terms of your blood, sweat and tears, it's quite motivating to stop you actually spending and to make you go for a better deal if you possibly can. So you think about that, and then if you take that a step further, then for many of us, not buying those things may mean that we don't need to earn so much money. We don't need such a stressful job. We don't have to work as many hours, maybe. In the past, as I said before, we're moving into new territory now. So it may be that we have to work more. I certainly am going to have to pick up some more hours cleaning, or I'm going to have to do some more freelance writing to keep on top of the cost of living and the rising energy bills. You have to be realistic. So I am going to have to spend more time working. So that means I have less time for doing the things that save me money, the frugal things. And I've talked in previous videos about how I have embraced frugality and I enjoy the simplicity of a more frugal lifestyle. And okay, that doesn't mean I never feel deprived. It doesn't mean I never wish that I could afford to do whatever, A, B or C, or that I could afford to buy certain things. It doesn't mean that I never feel that. But most of the time, it suits my ethos. I like jumping off the consumer bandwagon means that I do less damage to the planet. That's really important to me. So that is a good way to keep me motivated. I also have lost hours of sleep in the past by having debt and being worried about money. And I never ever want to be in that position again. So that keeps me motivated as well. So it will make me find the time to do the things I need to do. However, I think there are also things you can do to save time, so that you can still be frugal and still you will have to expend some of your hours doing stuff that's frugal, but maybe less. You can do things in a different way. So one thing that I don't do, you will have noticed from a previous video, my last vlog it was actually, I showed you my decluttering efforts in one of my cupboards, and you could see that my sheets and duvets and things like that were really quite screwed up. And yes, I would love to spend hours ironing sheets, and well, I wouldn't love to spend hours ironing sheets. I would love to get into a bed with lovely crisp, uncreased sheets, but not enough for me to spend the time ironing those sheets. And in fact, I rarely iron anything. I iron as little as I can get away with. I often buy clothing that doesn't need ironing because it saves me time. And for me, I prioritise that time. I'd rather use that doing something else. So I know I had a friend once and she ironed flannels and tea towels and towels, and I thought, my goodness, but she actually quite enjoyed ironing. So if you enjoy ironing, you just do it while you're watching the TV or listening to the radio or something. And so if you do decide to pursue a frugal lifestyle, there is no doubt in my mind that you will get days when you get sick of it, that you get fed up with it, counting every penny. It can feel like a chore, and not being able to just spend on what you want and have a splurge when you feel like it. It can feel like a chore. I'm not lying to you about this. You'll know this if you do that. Most of us are frugal for a reason. Some of us are frugal because we don't have a very big income and there is no alternative. So it helps us to keep control of our money. Some of us are frugal because we're desperate to pay off our mortgages early and actually have a life and be able to retire at a reasonable age. Some of us are aiming for a particular goal. I mean, it costs, personally, I wouldn't spend a fortune on a wedding, but if it's your dream to have a beautiful big wedding, then maybe you are putting every penny aside and it will be worth it for you to have the wedding and the day of your dreams. Maybe you want to go travelling. Maybe you are saving up for your children's college. That doesn't happen so much in the UK because we get really great loans and it doesn't really cost you anything, but I know that in the US it's a big deal to save up for college for your children. Maybe that's really important to you. You'd like to live frugally in order to give your children the opportunity of a college education. So whatever it is, there will be days when you just are sick of it, and I certainly every now and then I just think, oh, I wish I could just go and buy an expensive new dress or or whatever. It gets wearing. It's like anything, isn't it? Sometimes it gets wearing. So when I feel like that, I do try to save time where I can, because saving time means that you then have more time to do the other things that you like doing. So a lot of it's attitude. For me, as I said before, the benefit of not having debts outweighs any annoying little days when I think I wish I could go and get a fancy haircut or whatever, whatever. It outweighs it. And I know that by buying secondhand, it's better for the planet, so it also saves me money. So that's something I'm really enthusiastic about. It doesn't feel like a chore. I know, because I love charity shopping and I love going to boot sales and having a route round, I know that I can find nearly everything that I need in my life secondhand, and really so much cheaper than if I was to buy it new. It doesn't come with the packaging that a new item would. It hasn't been transported more than once. It's been transported from the factory for the original owner, but there's no kind of big transport costs, coming from China into Felixstowe or whatever. It does make a difference. Things like that, they're important to me, so that helps me. So I think being motivated and having a good kind of attitude towards frugality is very helpful. Getting really organised. So, as I mentioned before, writing a budget, knowing what you've got to spend for that month or that week, however you decide to budget, and sticking to that budget, keeping an eye on it, it will really help you. It will help you. Being organised with your meals. I said it takes a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of time to do meal planning. It literally takes me 10 minutes. I go through the cupboards, see what we've got, see what needs using in the fridge, incorporate those into my meal plan. Look at what my budget is for, in the first place. If I haven't got a lot of money that particular week, then I will try to eat less meat and eat cheaper meals, So it helps in that way. If I know we've got something coming up, this week, my mum took me to the theatre. We went on a coach trip. I took her really, but she paid. I knew that was coming up, so I bought some things for us to take on the coach, some cheap coffees and juices from the supermarket, so we didn't have to try and spend stupid money and time in the interval queuing up for food and drink. We took some sandwiches with us. I got some crisps and that sort of thing. So that was about being prepared. And if I knew that one night when I was working, I work for myself now, but when I was working, if I knew that there was something happening straight after work, perhaps I had shopping or perhaps I had an appointment, I would make sure there was something really simple. Perhaps I would have pre-prepared something or done double food the next day, that kind of thing. So it's all about being organised. That really does help save time. And I think having a shopping list when you go into the supermarket keeps you focused on what you need to buy, but it saves loads of time because you know what you're going to get. You don't you think, right, I've got to get to the bread next, I've got to go to this next, I've got to go to that next, rather than just having a little browse around. Although you might like a browse around, I think it's dangerous for your budget. Well, it's dangerous for my budget. It's another reason I like going to Lidl and Aldi, because there is so much less choice in those supermarkets. I've always thought that I can get around much more quickly. I'm less tempted by offers. If I know I'm in a rush, I don't go anywhere near the middle aisles. That's where temptation is, in those supermarkets. And another time saver when it comes to food is to cook more than you need, always. I mean, you don't necessarily have to spend one day every now and then making masses of meals for your freezer or whatever, doing a bit of batch cooking. I do that sometimes, but I tend to do it as I go along. So if I make a bolognese, I'll make enough for at least 2 meals. If I make a casserole, I'll make several meals worth in one go. Some of it will go in the freezer, or I might have the same thing the next day. I don't mind eating the same thing 2 days in a row. Quite often I find, particularly with spicy things, they're nicer the next day. They just have developed some flavours. So when I was working, I'd often do a bit of meal prep on a Sunday, and that's something my middle daughter does quite a lot. She'll chop up lots of vegetables and have an idea of what she's going to cook for the week, but she might have all the onions prepped and in the fridge, or all of the vegetables chopped, or she might have made batch cooked a bit on a Sunday. So that's a real time saver. I know I did have a friend who used to make all the sandwiches and put them in the freezer. I don't like them, soggy sandwiches, and you can also restrict what you can put in them. Like you can put a salad in a frozen sandwich, but you might like to do that, or you might like to make a few as you go along. So make 2 days worth of sandwiches or salads or whatever you take with you. It's a time saver. You could get your fillings prepared. Even if you didn't make the sandwiches, you could grate the cheese, you could hard boil your eggs, you could slice your ham, whatever you do. So there are various ways where if you think about it ahead and you know what you're going to eat, you can save a bit of time on your preparation. When I make a pot of soup, which I do quite often at the moment, as we've got quite a lot of vegetables in the garden, I will make a huge pot I'll get lots of stock. Sometimes I'll make stock from chicken bones that are in the freezer or other bones. I'll make a massive pot. I keep all of the little, takeaway type containers, which I don't know, they make it their way into our house, even though we rarely have takeaways. Sometimes my daughters have them or I pinch them from them. They're very useful, so they're great for freezing. So I'll freeze portions of soup, and in the morning I try to remember to get them out for lunch. If I don't, I just stand them in some water, and then they defrost quite quickly in warm water that way. I cook simple meals in the week as well. I do, sometimes I like cooking. I like spending a bit of time making something fancy. Most of the time I have a repertoire of things that are very easy to do, and you can, if you want, spend a lot of time following all these TV chefs and thinking that's what you've got to do in order to feed your family well, but you can make very simple things, make a cheese sauce for a macaroni cheese, or I quite often have some rice cooked and I'll just chuck in a load of veggies, sometimes a bit of meat, a bit of bacon, whatever, and it's a very easy meal, and I do that kind of thing quite often. The other thing I did this recently on one of my videos, is that I won't tend to mend clothing immediately, so I'll put it to one side. When I've got 2 or 3 things, or 3 or 4 things that need a little repair, I'll do them all together because I've got the sewing basket out. Maybe I've got something on the TV, and it doesn't really take any time. If you keep getting the sewing basket out each time and threading the needles and everything, it seems to take longer. I batch my work tasks too, because I'm self-employed. It helps me to kind of get in the zone. So if I am going to write some articles, if I've got a couple of articles that need doing, I'll tend to try and do those over the course of the day. So I'll do a couple a day. I can't write them that quickly, but if I am selling things on eBay, I will get a whole load of stuff, make sure that they're all ready and presentable, washed and ironed, but I'll photograph them all in one go, and then I'll list them all in one go, because I find that you get in the zone, it takes less time than trying to do 1 or 2 at a time. With the house, I think it pays not to get neurotic about being house proud, really. If I had lots of time, yes, well, I probably would spend more time cleaning. My second job, about my 3rd or 4th job actually, is cleaning other people's houses. I keep this house clean, but I try to keep it tidy as I go and do little bits of cleaning as I go. So, not allowing things to get crusty, or spilling things on the surfaces or the sink and not wiping them up straight away, because you create more of a task for yourself if you don't just do things as you go along, sweep up as you go along, keep things generally tidy. Then when you do come to do a good clean, I did tend to do that once a week, you can whiz around without having to move loads of different things about, so that takes less time. And the other thing is to train your family to be tidy as well. Pick up things, put them away, because why should it just be you? It still tends to fall on women to do everything. So train the rest of your family or anybody else who lives in your household to be tidy, and that will save you time when it comes, or them time if you give them all chores, when it comes to cleaning. I've mentioned growing food already. We are realistic about the time we're going to have to spend in the garden. So this year, we know we've got a house move coming. We didn't grow too much in the garden, because otherwise it becomes a real stress about this time of year, and a chore when you've got to pick all the stuff and stop processing it, and it seemed pointless to do that when we were just going to have to move it. And we didn't know when we were going to be moving, so we just had a very small vegetable patch. It has saved us a bit of money having the veggies out there, but be realistic. Don't set yourself up a whole allotment if you work full time and have to take the kids to football on Saturday, and you're not really going to have any time to do it except on a Sunday. And really, are you going to do a whole allotment? Can you get half allotment? Can you share with a friend? If you can get an allotment at all, that's actually quite a tricky thing to do in most areas. But maybe you've got a veggie patch in your garden. Don't be over ambitious. Do it. Ease your way in. See what you can find time to do. Maybe sow some seeds, get your friends to sow some seeds, swap them so you're not having to do them all. Another really good frugal skill is learning some crafts that enable you to give nice, inexpensive gifts to your friends and family when it comes to Christmas and birthdays. But I look at what my Facebook group, as I've said before, and they make some beautiful things, and some of them are very, very talented. And that must take time. And if it's something you love doing, you can sit there and spend a few hours crocheting or knitting or, whatever it is that you do, painting. And that's a kind of release and a creative outlet as well, isn't it? And then if you can save yourself some money by giving those gifts to friends and family, then that's great. However, not all of us have those skills and not all of us have the time. I don't have the skills, and it would take me a long time, I think, to get back to knitting and learn to crochet and that kind of thing. Love the idea of it. I would love to be able to do that. However, realistically, I am better off when it comes to gifts, spending my time really hunting down the bargains. I even buy second-hand gifts for people quite often. If I see something in a charity shop and it's in really good condition, like a nice book or something, and I think, oh, my dad would like that or somebody would like that, then I'll pick that up. It's only a few pounds, but I could have spent probably £20 on a hardback or an almost new one in the charity shop. It makes sense to me to spend the time to do that. So I enjoy that as well. I enjoy, as I said already, I enjoy having a route round. So yes, that kind of gifting, frugal gifting is a mainstay really of a frugal lifestyle. But you can think of ways to do that suit you and don't take up quite so much time if you don't have a lot of time. There's no point in being unrealistic about it, is there? Keeping fit. So I have found over the years that, I quite enjoyed going to the gym. I can't afford a gym membership at the moment, but it also takes time, doesn't it, to actually go to the gym and do your workout or go to the classes that you're going to. So I tend to try to work keeping fit into my lifestyle. So we walk a lot, you know that. You see my videos where we're walking. It doesn't cost us very much, just the petrol to get to wherever our starting point is usually. We take a coffee and some refreshments with us, usually some food maybe. So we walk fast, and that's a good way of keeping fit. I do a little 20 to 30 minute workout most days here, which is a yoga workout. So that doesn't cost me anything, and I can fit it in first thing. And some days if I'm busy, I don't do that. But I think for me, it's a worthwhile investment in my health to do that. But you don't have to spend hours. So if you can work it into your lifestyle, it doesn't become a special thing that you've got to go out and do. And also, then you can tend to work that into your lifestyle and it's free. So the other thing I think about, because I've taken on some house cleaning, you'll know that's my latest side hustle, and I really think I go whizzing round and I think this is a really good workout for me, and I come home knackered sometimes, but I think, well, that's really good. I've kind of built up my stamina doing that, and I've got paid for it as well, so double bubble. So those are some of the things that I do to save time, because there's no doubt that frugality will cost time, and that is the true cost of a frugal lifestyle. So what do you do to save time? Do you find that some things are just not worth you doing? You'd rather actually go and spend the money on whatever it is rather than be frugal? Or have you picked up some really good hints and tips that you could share in the comments below about how you can save time whilst also saving money? I would love to hear that. So as I say, let us know in the comments below. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.